What is it about President Donald J. Trump? What is he doing? How can we better understand him? And what is he up to? That's what we're going to talk about in this video. Hey, Mark. Like, comment, and subscribe. Sign up for my free newsletter and links to the guests in the description below. Hey, Mark, thank you so much for making yourself available.
As soon as you mention Trump, my hands go up like this.
That's right.
Billions and billions of dollars.
Yes, this is the second time on the channel. And in the first video, we talked about a very, very unpalatable, unpleasant, difficult to stomach, but important topic. And we began to talk about Trump's role in that. And then it occurred to me, it's like, you seem to have a certain handle on him or a perspective that might be useful. Certainly, I found it insightful. So give us a short potted history about Donald Trump.
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump. And then we'll get on to Donald Trump.
Yeah, let's get on to Donald as well. Well, it depends who you ask. I mean, I get thousands of emails a week, and like last week, somebody sent me a newspaper cutting from 1980 showing a big, fat, ugly guy, and it said Donald Trump and Ivanka, underneath it. And there's lots of different versions of, there's definitely more than one Trump on the stage. There's the short one, the tall one. I met a version of Trump in Ireland 2 years ago. I tried to give him a copy of this book because there's a poem in it called "The Best Is Yet to Come," and I spent half an hour with Eric trying to give it to him, and he said, "No, I can't take it because it might have Bryson in it or something." So, is he a real character? I don't think you should get too bogged down with that. But I'd go a bit deeper. If anybody watching this who wants to really understand Trump, go and look at the works of Ingersoll Lockwood. Have you heard of those books, Rich?
No.
So in the 1890s, there were a series of books written by this guy called Ingersoll Lockwood.
Right.
In fact, go to ingersolllockwood.com. That's a very interesting website. These books were called the Adventures of Baron von Trump, and there are drawings in the book that look like Baron Trump, Donald Trump's son, written in the 1890s. And the last book is called The Last President, and it's about Baron von Trump's best friend called Don from New York, who becomes the last president of America. And when you put that together with the fact that John G. Trump, his uncle, the professor, MIT professor, worked with Nikola Tesla after Tesla published a paper on time travel. And then when you look at Back to the Future, 88 miles per hour, 88 is Donald J. Trump in Gematria. And the character Biff, who time travels and makes himself rich based on time travel. I did a video on X 4 years ago, I think, saying, was Donald Trump a time traveler? And also, if you look at John G. Trump, he looks remarkably like Julian Assange. It's quite extraordinary. When you start looking at all these weird coincidences, you have to ask yourself the question, is this a time war? And then that sounds crazy, but then you look at the Mandela effect. You've heard of the Mandela effect?
I've heard of it, where people misremember something that didn't happen.
No, they don't misremember. They remember what it was, but it's changed.
Okay.
It's like, it's called the Mandela effect because some people remember him dying in prison. Some remember him becoming president of South Africa. It's like the line in Star Wars, I think it was The Empire Strikes Back, where Darth Vader says, "Luke, I am your father."
Yes.
But it's not that anymore. He doesn't say Luke anymore. And then you're like, well, how can... And there's tons of Mandela effects, like the Fruit of the Loom logo changed. Everybody remembers it with a thing, and it's not there anymore. How is that possible? Well, it's because we're in a time war. We're in a multi-dimensional war, right? Up against multi-dimensional beings, interdimensional beings. And that is the truth. And most people can't get that far, but some of us, like me, have had experiences that prove that this is true. So, I got visited by a UFO 3 years ago. It was a big triangular orange UFO covered in hieroglyphics, and it was totally interdimensional. I was in my neighbor's garden 3 years ago, and we saw a light coming towards. I'm in the UFO capital of Ireland, by the way. It's called Boyle, right? we saw a light coming towards us 11 o'clock at night in her garden. And I said, oh, it's a UFO. And as it came over our heads, it was a dragon made of light. Sounds nuts, right? But it's multidimensional. We're in a multidimensional world, but most of us can't see that. But yet we have stories and histories of dragons, and all this stuff is our history. But we get told it's a myth. But it's not a myth. And how does this relate to Donald Trump? Sorry, I'm going off on a tangent. Well, I think he's a time traveler, and I think that he's a character in a huge intergalactic war against basically a group known as the Orion Group.
Okay, hold on a second, Mark. Hold on a second.
Not the right subject for a channel on politics, is it? Yeah, I know, it's nuts. I know
it's completely nuts, right? And I do want to keep it on this planet for the sake of Rich Does Politics channel.
Well, okay, so that's what Trump is, right? So the character of Trump is a deliberately an annoying character. I mean, to me, he's the funniest politician ever. He's hilarious.
Funny.
He's a stand-up comedian.
And he is annoying.
Yeah, and he's annoying, and he winds people up because that's how they're waking up. He's annoying them so that they get, and then they work things out for themselves, because that's the only way of waking up a deeply hypnotized population, MK Ultra population.
Right. They don't wake up. They just hate him more, many of them. He's just proof. I mean, look what he's done with Iran. Because I was like, for me, like many people, he's anti-war. And then he starts this, they say to me.
No, totally. And it winds. So every time it's like layers and layers and layers. I mean, over the last couple of years, the second term has really been about flushing out the fake MAGAs, the fake right-wingers, because there's a lot of them. And it's like, every move that he makes flushes people out, and then we have to go deeper and deeper. I mean, Iran is really about a Stargate, the same as Iraq. Iraq was really about Gilgamesh, the giant. That's the true nature of these wars is far more esoteric than anybody would realize. But on the surface, we're being presented with something that makes us go, "Oh my God, World War III." I mean, how often have you heard World War III bandied about in the last 5 years?
I mean, we've been in a war since certainly long before 2020.
It's World War IV.
Well, okay.
Well, you look at the Cold War was a war.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it was a war. So we're in World War IV really, and we've been in it for quite a long time.
Okay. Now I don't want to go to Stargate and Gilgamesh, right?
I can't. I'm a bit naughty like that. I'm sorry.
You are a bit naughty. You need to behave and remain cold and do what you're told, and roll up your sleeves.
Yes, sir.
And have your regular boosters.
I'll go to the back of the class. Go on. I was very uncontrollable as a kid, so nothing's changed really. What you're asking really is, what is he doing? He is performing, as far as I'm concerned, a spiritual mission.
Okay.
For humanity. And he's the figurehead of a massive operation that is totally secret. It's a silent war. It's an invisible war. What we're seeing on the surface is there for us. From a spiritual point of view, everything is exactly as it's meant to be. That is like the deepest spiritual learning I ever had. When I was suicidal, that was the phrase that kept coming back to me. And it's very difficult when you're in a long, dark night of the soul to realize that it's actually there to serve you, because you chose to come here. You chose to experience this existence in order for your soul to develop. And
just on that, because I mentioned to you offline that I used to be a program leader for Landmark Worldwide and used to work for them. And I remember one of their really senior coaches saying to me, "Life is how life is how it should be." How else can it be other than the way that it is?
Yeah, it's true. So everybody's experiencing it on a different level. That's why it's so brilliant about the character of Donald Trump, because he's extremely polarizing. And when I toured America in 22, I got on stage and something I channel most of the time, especially when I'm talking. And what I came out with was something that I would have thought would have got me pelted with rotten tomatoes. But I said, COVID was the best thing that ever happened to humanity. And I was surprised. I got cheers in the rooms. We did 17 gigs around America. And the reason I say that is because COVID, for the first time in history, showed us who everybody was.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, you know, yes, you lost family members. Yes, you lost friends. I lost all my friends and family members, all of them, apart from my mum. You know, my brother won't talk to me, especially if I bring up this subject.
Mm.
It's totally crazy. But we've all carried that pain. We've all lost people through this, not just emotionally, but, you know, people have died. That's why I set up a healing center, because my friend dropped dead after I told him he was going to drop dead if he didn't get rid of what was injected into him. And then he dropped dead. Mm-hmm. So we're going to open a healing center now because people are dying now. I mean, the busiest business in this town and probably every town around the world is the funeral directors. If it wasn't for John O'Looney in England, we wouldn't know what was really going on, because most of them are too counting the money instead of telling us about the big clots they're finding in everybody after the autopsies and, you know, the embalming. You know, and all these truths are there, but it's still not, you know, I still walk around and I'm like, it's a hard world to live in when you know what's really going on.
Right. Okay. But sticking with Trump. So what is Trump, what is Trump doing? So from what I can see, or what I think he's doing, what I hope he's doing, he's destroying the city of London, and
yes,
its control over the world. So the British Empire went behind the curtains, no longer so overt, but running the show from the shadows.
Always. I mean, everybody said the Queen was symbolic. No, she wasn't. She was very, very powerful. But they've all, in my opinion, all of them are gone. They all got taken out before 2020. We're watching actors, and we're watching CGI, and we're watching rubber masks, and we're watching, you know, Biden wasn't really president. He was executed in 2019. And Trump told us, this is what I said about him talking in code. Trump got up at a rally in 21, I think it was, and he was going, "Where's Joe? Joe's gone. Joe's shot. He's gonzo." He was telling us to our faces, but you can only hear it if you are tuned into it. So he works on multiple levels. You know, on one level, he's just taking the piss out of his opponent. On the other level, he's telling us that Joe was shot and he's gone. Joe's dead. You know, he told us time and time again. He keeps doing this. He's doing Q messages all the time. He's even posting, in the last year, him and Elon Musk have been posting Q memes all the time. Restore Britain. The O turned into a Q in the video. It's a military operation.
Okay.
He's the figurehead.
Okay. Now, one of the things that he does when he sits, I notice he sits with his hands up.
It's the point of the spear.
Okay.
And then people go, "Oh, it's a Masonic thing." Well, maybe it is. You know, there's secret orders and there's factions in all of these secret orders. None of us actually know the truth, but we're getting closer to it. So everything that he's doing is to liberate humanity. You know, Iran was controlled by the British for 130 years at least.
Okay,
I won't talk about the Stargates, but, you know, on a political front, they use entire religions. You know,
but Iran was liberated from the control of the British in 1979. The argument goes,
allegedly,
to the rise of the Islamic Revolution, and they
allegedly. Nothing is what it seems. Nothing. There's so many deeper layers to all of this, and people get so attached to. So I think what Trump's doing is making us all become unattached. I mean, I had a massive spiritual awakening in 2017, 2018, when I was suicidal. I thought I'd lost everything. My marriage had broken down, my business had gone, everything was gone. And I just got told, you have to let everything go. I kept getting told, you've got to let it go. Now, I understood that as a Taoist philosophy years before. I was putting out memes saying, just let go. But I didn't really understand it. What it means is that you have to let go of everything you ever thought was real. You know, everything we've all been brainwashed beyond belief. You and I went to school and we got taught a load of nonsense about history, physics, chemistry. It's all bullshit, right? So we've got to let go of all of those ideas. That's what COVID is teaching us, right? Stop giving your authority stop abrogating responsibility for your own health to a fake medical system, right? That's why I set up a healing centre, because we had to create an alternative. As Buckminster Fuller said in the 50s, you don't fight the system, you build the system that you want, right? So that's what we're doing here. That's what I'm trying to do. And lots of people are doing this all around the world. And Trump is part of a spiritual operation to help us achieve that by letting go of so many things. Can I answer why an anti-war president is suddenly hammering Iran? Well, I just, you either trust it or you don't, I think is the simplest way of putting it. And I know I've learned to trust him over time, you know.
Okay.
Some of these, yeah.
But that doesn't take away that we might be being tricked.
Yeah, that's true as well.
Right. And that he could be playing for the other side, or of course he's human, he may have made a big mistake.
Well, I go back to the capitulation tour. Have you ever seen that? Trump's capitulation tour.
Okay.
In 2017, he went around the world and he he basically said to all the bad guys, "We've got everything. You need to capitulate." So when he went to Saudi Arabia, he got the sword dance, which is only ever given to kings.
Yes.
Right. When he went to Russia, Putin passed him the football and said, I guess it's over to you now. The football is where the nuclear codes or whatever, some people say that would have been contained within it. But he passed, it's all symbolic. So all of these symbols are symbolic.
Why?
Because the world is run on symbols. There's a really good website you should go and look at called vigilanttcitizen.com.
Okay.
Right? I started reading that 10 years ago. The world is run on symbols. And this is where I totally agree with David Icke. You know, the Saturn moon matrix is the thing that actually controls this grid that we're in. And that is frequencies coming through. So symbols emit frequencies.
Yes.
So the world is run on sound, vibrations.
Yes.
Tesla said, if you want to understand the universe, think of it in terms of frequencies, right? And cymatics is something anybody watching this has never heard of. It should go and look it up, because if you play a certain frequency with iron filings on a piece of paper and through a speaker, it will immediately form sacred geometry. So symbols rule the world.
Right.
So, and when I first truly understood this, I think it was in 2016, I was stood outside the National History Museum in London, and it suddenly dawned on me that you couldn't walk 5 feet in London without seeing the symbol of Saturn, the London Underground symbol.
Oh, yes. Now,
Right?
for people who don't know, the London Underground symbol is a circle with a bar going through it.
Yeah, Saturn. And if you look into that, they actually had an art exhibition in the 1920s talking about the fact that it was representing Saturn. So
I always had it that was the Earth tube line going through the Earth.
No, it's Saturn. So it has a frequency. So that frequency comes into our brains, because our brains are transceivers. They're transmitters and receivers. So it receives that subconsciously and then transmits the reality that they want us to transmit. So the symbols are extremely powerful. They're everything, because this is a hologram. So we are the ones that are creating this hologram, and they control that, manipulate that through symbols.
Okay. And then Trump uses symbols to communicate stuff.
Yeah.
All right, and then he talks in code.
Yeah.
And he's so outrageous and annoying that and in your face that it wakes people up. I mean, sometimes he's funny, and sometimes he's just so rude.
I know, it's great.
And then the other side of it, right? He talks nicely about everybody.
It's genius. I mean, look at Rupert Lowe's language recently.
Right.
And he's talking very similar. He's like a British version of Trump, isn't he? He's using words like "the piss take ends today" and this is all blatantly nonsense, and and he's using language that people use in the pub.
Yes, yes,
and that is genius. Nobody's ever done that.
Yeah, no, about Trump and about Lowe, and I'd say there's a few others, perhaps like Corbyn, although he doesn't have the charisma of either of them, right? But they talk like real people.
Yeah, which is
amazing. Blair.
Yeah, but bullshit.
Yeah.
God, Tony Blair.
Yes.
No, he's just depressed me.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Sorry to you. Come back.
But but Trump made Blair in charge of the Middle East.
Yes. Now people say, okay, he made him. That's
Spotlight.
because Trump is captured by he's either a Zionist himself, right? Just look at his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, or he's captured by the Zionists, the hundreds of millions that the Adelson family have given him. So of course he puts Blair on the board of peace in order to trick people that somehow he's for peace and stuff, but really he's just carrying the can and supporting for the Zionists, supporting the Zionists.
Well, if he was, he wouldn't put Blair in charge because it's too obvious. If you go and read The Art of War, I
haven't read it.
Well, what is the biggest weapon in war? Deception.
Right.
Right? You cannot let your enemy know what you're going to do, and you strike like a tiger when they least expect it. You appear weak when you're strong, and you appear strong when you're weak. So it's all deception. And the problem people have, the reason people lose their nuts over all of this is because they're looking at everything on the surface level. It's much, much, much deeper. And you either this whole time was prophesized, right? So we are in Revelations in the Bible right now. We are in the time of the Hopi prophecy of the eagle and the condor, which is the dark and the light have to merge for the new earth to emerge from this. If people, go and look up the work of Dolores Cannon, who prophesied this time 40, 50 years ago, because she was speaking to people under hypnosis, thousands of them, that were all saying the same thing, and they had no connection to each other. There are waves of souls that have come in at this time to assist with the awakening process, because the human race is ascending. So Trump is playing a spiritual role during the ascension of humanity into a higher dimensional frequency. That's what's really going on. So he has to play this part where it triggers people, right? And it triggers them in a way that makes them wake up eventually. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to hold people's hands over the bridge.
Okay, but just on that, right? So he's engaging in this spiritual war to wake people up, but he's dropping bombs on innocents in Iran.
Or is he? I mean, look, we're all basing that on what we see on a video. Have you experienced these bombs? I mean, I'm not saying they're not happening. I'm not saying people aren't dying, but and I'm against all forms of murder and death in any kind of way. But there's often, sometimes you've got to break some eggs to make an omelette. And I watched your interview with EM the other day, and he was very hardcore about that. But I think there's truth to what he was saying, and it's like peace through strength. People don't understand that Iran, Venezuela, Cuba, all of these places are deep state proxy states, right? And they have been part of the child trafficking operations. I mean, if you go and look at the Project for the New American Century, and you look at the 16-year plan that was there for Obama and Clinton, it was like a 16 years. He did his 8 years to destroy America from the inside, and Clinton was supposed to carry that on. And we were supposed to go to a massive war in 2017 under Hillary Clinton.
Right.
So humanity dodged the biggest bullet in history because Trump won. She was not supposed to lose. So you just got to keep going back to that. If you understand that as a fact, not everybody does, but if you do, you just keep going back to that and go, okay, we dodged that bullet. We're still here. It's 2026. You look at all the policies that are going on in America, and now it's incredible what's going on economically.
Yeah.
All of the markets have been suppressed. The crypto markets are suppressed. The silver market's been controlled and suppressed for forever. And we just had that burst. We had a burst in crypto XRP a year ago, and then we had a burst in silver because we're being given the time to go and purchase these things, because they're going to go through, in my opinion, they're at least, silver's at least going to go to 10,000, and XRP I think is going to be worth $1 million each. So we've been given the opportunity. And so all these little signs are there for us to move forward.
Okay. So I want to go back to a few things that you said, a few points. So one is, a friend of mine suggested to me today that perhaps Trump is playing a role akin to what Severus Snape played in the Harry Potter novels. And I remember reading those like, Snape was a goodie all along?
Yeah.
Okay. And then I know for myself as a social worker, sometimes when I'm working with particularly abusive parents, they think I'm there to support them, But on the other side, I'm gathering evidence that would justify me removing that child to a place of safety. They don't know I'm doing that. That's happened a few times where the abuse has been so dangerous and chronic that I've had to do that. And then, so I can get that. And of course, investigators do that and people go undercover. Then, what was the other point I was going to make? I've forgotten the other point. It was a really good point.
Oh, no, I was with you.
Okay. So, and you talked about this operation. Now, I've heard that it started in 1963 after the death of Kennedy.
Or maybe before. I mean, that's another thing. You go and look at Kennedy's grave, it's in the shape of a Q. You go and look at Diana's grave, it's in the shape of a Q. Right?
Oh.
This has been out there for years and years and years and years. This is an ancient.
Why Q?
Because of Q. Q is the number 17, and it's like the most important number in the world. It's a deeply profound thing, and a lot of us keep seeing 17 everywhere because we are part of that operation, whether we know it or not. And Q, the book of Q, got taken out of the Bible by the Council of Nicaea. Go and look up the book of Q. Q has been around forever. It's an energy. It's a frequency. The Q drops. The Q security status within American security is like the highest level of secrecy. The Q drops that came out from 2017 to 2020, and then a few more in 2022, told us all about all the satanic abuse and Pizzagate and everything else. But it was like prepping hundreds of thousands, millions of people to assist everybody else during the awakening that we're going through now. The last Q post, I think, was in 22, and it said, it's a war for your DNA, ascension. We are ascending, and we're being prepared for it. So it's like everything that's going on in the world is really one great big initiation, ritualistic initiation, which the bad guys have done to us for years and years and years, but now it's being done in reverse. So the MK Ultra programming that the whole planet was under for centuries is now being used to undo that hypnotizing sort of mind control. The same techniques are being used. So we are being unpicked gently as possible. There have to be some casualties because we're in a bloody war.
Okay, but what about the argument that what Trump is really doing? He's tricking us, people like us who believe in freedom and sovereignty and peace, to bring in the beast system, CBDCs and all of that, because the SAVE Act, for example, you now have to have an ID. What he wants is people to have an ID in order to vote, and then Palantir getting all this information and making contracts with the government, and X going to be collecting people's identities, and there's going to be a currency through it.
Yeah, well, I mean, it could be one or the other. All the way through, it could be one or the other. Everything's a double-edged sword or a quadruple-edged sword. It's like every operation that's been used against us has the deep state have always got more than one objective through any of the operations that they carry out. So 9/11, for example, not only was it used to bring in the Patriot Act,
yeah,
but it also got rid of Building 7, which contained all the files for the $2.7 trillion missing dollars that Donald Rumsfeld talked about the day before, and it got everybody divide and conquer. Christians versus Muslims. That's what they want.
Yeah,
they want that fight. This is one of the reasons I moved to Marrakesh. I wanted my kids to realize Muslims are nice people, because they were the minority in Morocco for 4 years in their childhood, which has served them so well because the people are wonderful. You can't hate a religion just because the government tells you to. But that's what they do. They have quadruple-edged swords going on all the time. So that's being used now to unpick. And it's either, if you understand that we create our own reality, you are either, I had this argument when I was a 7-year-old at school. I kept getting told off for being an optimist. And I said, well, yeah, I'm an optimist. Why are you an optimist? You're not a realist. You're not realistic. And I'm like, well, maybe, but I have a better time getting there than you do. And I remember saying,
had more fun.
Yeah, I had more fun because I was like always looking for the opposite. I'm an apocalyptimist. That's what I am. Apocalypse doesn't mean the end of the world. It means great revealing in Greek. And I'm optimistic about the outcome. So everything you just said is true from one perspective. And it's also true from another perspective. That's the point. And then it becomes an argument about which one's right. And that's politics, which we need to get rid of.
Yes, Mark, that is absolutely fabulous. On that optimistic note, actually, before that, because you're in Ireland, and you mentioned it earlier, and there's something perhaps for you to explore, because Ireland does have a common law tradition, and it recognizes trust.
Yeah.
Right? And it's also, I imagine it's a signatory to international conventions against terrorism and against genocide. In the UK, it's a criminal offence to pay any tax to local or central government. NoTaxForWar.com or UpInArms.uk. And I'm looking to see, and you've got connections, that how that could be done in Ireland and in other countries as a protest against the totalitarian tyranny that's being rolled out by our governments.
100%.
No stop.
Tax is theft. Tax is theft, pure and simple. Why are you paying taxes to satanic paedophiles, guys?
As Tom Longo says, this is where we are, paying taxes to
we are.
All right. Mark, thank you so much. The MarkAttwoodShow.com. Really appreciate it. Look forward to speaking to you soon. All the best.
Rich.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.